Hey friends, how's everyone doing today? Hope you're all having an amazing and super day so far. Tamie M coming to you from TamieMCoaching.com. And what I want to talk to you about today is, it's a pretty serious subject actually. Are you an adult child of alcoholism? Are you an adult child of alcoholism? You know, many of us grow up in certain family dynamics and it's pretty freaking clear. Like, I think by the time I was 5 years old, I knew what an alcoholic was. So there was no ambiguity there, right? But often, interestingly enough, folks aren't even aware that they've been affected by the family disease of alcoholism. And, you know, they're bumping around through adult life trying to figure out and wondering why they're having such a hard time in their interpersonal relationships, the romantic relationships, in life in general, what have you, because they don't really have anything very specific that they can point to, like, you know, growing up in a family dynamic where the adults were often falling down drunk or whatever it might have been, right? So it's not because there was an alcohol in the home that you may not have been affected by the family disease of alcoholism. And if you were affected by the family disease of alcoholism, you, my friend, are an adult child of an ACOA, basically an adult child of alcoholism, especially if it's been left untreated. So that's what we're going to talk about today. If we haven't met before, I'm going to take a quick moment to introduce myself. Again, my name is Tamie M. I am an empowerment coach for women. I help women break free from painful relationship patterns through a proven 8-week process called the Freedom Class. And if you'd like some information on that, you can drop me a comment, send me a private message, or go on over to TamieMCoaching.com. All the deets are there, and you can actually click a link at the bottom of that page to apply for, book a free strategy call with me if you'd like. I just realized I did not put my computer on mute, and I just want to do that quickly before we get going, or we'll have dinging going on in the background, and I don't like that. So let's get started, shall we? Who do we have on? Delana, how are you? Nice to see you. Thanks for hopping on, love. Nice to see you. So, are you an adult child of alcoholism? Are you an ACOA? And like I started to say before, what's really fascinating about this is there may not have even been alcohol in the home, and you may still have been affected by the family disease of alcoholism. So here's what I mean by that. For example, I was raised by my father's mother, my paternal grandmother. She wasn't a drinker. So under our roof for most of my childhood, from, I would say, I don't know, 2-3 years old until I was 13, and then again 16 onwards. There were a couple of breaks there, but predominantly growing up under one roof with my paternal grandmother, there wasn't any alcohol. I grew up severely affected by the family disease of alcoholism. My grandmother was a champion codependent. When my mother was pregnant with me, my grandmother finally decided to leave my very alcoholic, very abusive grandfather after 25 years of being brutally beaten. So although I grew up in my home with my grandmother where there really wasn't much in the way of alcohol except maybe, you know, like Christmas and that sort of thing, I was very much affected by the family disease of alcoholism. What they lived before I even came along with my alcoholic grandfather, and what that did to my father and his siblings. I had a front row seat my whole life, so I can speak to this. Very classic adult child stuff. Now, some of them grew up to be chronic alcoholics themselves. Some of them are just raging champion codependents. Some of them are extremely narcissistic. Some of them are, you know, they're on the scale of destructive narcissism, but some are more narcissistic than others, more destructively narcissistic than others. All of them across the board were untreated adult children of alcoholism. So even though I didn't grow up in a home where every single day I was dealing with a drunk parent, actually on both sides, both of my parents were seriously affected untreated adult children of alcoholism. My father went on to become an alcoholic himself. He's been long gone from this planet, but he did. And both families were seriously affected, and it gets passed on through the generations, passed down through the generations. So, you know, I know some folks who grew up in homes where Dad, for example, quit drinking decades ago. I know a number of people where this is the case. You know, a parent quit drinking decades ago. People don't put the cork in the bottle and not touch another drop of alcohol for decades for nothing. There's a good reason for that, right? And that's okay. Like, that's, you know, they stopped. Great. But what happens is, if they don't actually deal with the underlying issues that were causing the drinking problem to begin with, they very easily fall into the dry drunk syndrome, which is, again, I've had a front row seat to this my whole freaking life. And in my experience, it can become, not always, but often, it can become like a form of mental illness. You want to talk about narcissism? An untreated alcoholic who has simply put the cork in the bottle and done absolutely no emotional, psychological, or spiritual work on themselves, and that progresses over decades. Classic narcissist, classic destructive narcissist. So again, just because you grew up in a home where there might not have been alcohol to point to does not mean that you were not affected by the family disease of alcoholism. And then again, maybe you did grow up in a home where there was plenty of, you know, alcoholic drinking and all of the behavior that goes along with that. And I mean, we could talk for hours, days, weeks really on this subject, right? Like, it's a big one. But I just wanted to sort of bring it to your attention because, you know, a lot of the folks who tune into me do so because I help women break free from painful relationship patterns. And if we land in adult life and we're wondering why we're struggling so freaking hard in these areas or any area of our life, maybe we are high functioning in one area but really struggling in another. That's the case for a lot of us. It was certainly the case for me for many, many, many years, right? We can become compulsive workaholics. We can become compulsive fitness freaks. Like, we can really excel in certain areas, but really struggle in others, right? So kind of lost my train of thought with where I was going with that. But what I want to do is introduce you to a book that is really, really powerful when it comes to this particular conversation, this particular subject. And if you're wondering whether or not you've been affected and to what degree you've been affected and how exactly you've been affected by the family disease of alcoholism and how that gets, you know, passed down through the generations, whether there's alcohol present in the home or not. We're talking psychological, emotional, spiritual illnesses. So whether or not alcohol is present, I have to drive this point home, is not indicative of whether or not you were affected by the family disease. You may very well have been affected by someone, by the disease, by, you know, through someone who has been exhibiting dry drunk syndrome, for example, for decades, and therefore is very narcissistic. Just as an example, you know, very, very codependent, which is a disease of emotional immaturity. I mean, if you were raised by codependent, narcissistic parents, I mean, you know, you were affected by the family disease of alcoholism very, very seriously. So this book can really help you determine not only whether or not you were affected, to what degree you were affected, how exactly you were affected, and some solutions. So the book is called Adult Children of Alcoholism, very appropriately, by Janet Geringer Woylitz, W-O-I-T-I-T-Z, W-O-I-T-I-T-Z. So Adult Children of Alcoholism is the book by Janet Geringer, G-E-R-I-N-G-E-R, then W-O-I-T-I-T-Z. Now, on the back of this book, I need my glasses for this. On the back of this book, she has a shopping list of symptoms for those of us who have been affected by the family disease of alcoholism and haven't stepped into any sort of treatment or recovery plan or program or practice or lifestyle. whether that's 12-step or otherwise. There's lots and lots of resources available for us, many of which don't cost a dime. They happen in church basements all over the frickin' planet, just about every single day. So there's lots of available resources out there for us. But if you have any questions and are wondering whether or not you've been affected, here's a shopping list on the back of the book that'll give you an indication as to what it looks like and feels like to be an ACOA, an adult child of alcoholism, who has yet to do any recovery work on themselves. I'm just going to take some water here before I get started. Is that Haley? Nice to see you. Thanks for hopping on. Oh, it's Haley Reynolds. I thought it was another Haley. My apologies. Haley Reynolds, thanks for joining. Nice to see you. Guys, do me a favor. If you're catching the live, drop me a 1 in the comments. If you're catching the replay, drop a 2. And if you're new to my live broadcast, let me know you're new and let me know where you're coming in from so I can reach out and say hello to you. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments or send me a private message. I'd be happy to answer your questions for you. So, the shopping list. Are you an adult child of an alcoholic? Well, here's what it looks and feels like to be an untreated, unrecovered adult child, ACOA. And for the record, they don't call us adult children for nothing. Recovery is all about waking up and growing up. So first and foremost, adult children of alcoholics guess at what normal behavior is. Adult children of alcoholics guess at what normal behavior is. This is very much my reality growing up. Adult children of alcoholics have difficulty following a project through from beginning to end. Have difficulty following a project through from beginning to end. Adult children of alcoholics lie when it would be just as easy to tell the truth. Adult children of alcoholics judge themselves without mercy. Adult children of alcoholics have difficulty having fun. Adult children of alcoholics take themselves very seriously. Very seriously. Adult children of alcoholics have difficulty with intimate relationships. That's an understatement. Adult children of alcoholics overreact to changes over which they have no control. Freaks them right out. Adult children of alcoholics constantly seek approval and affirmation. That was my reality right into my mid to late 30s. Adult children of alcoholics usually feel that they are different from other people. That's been my reality my whole life. I think that that's true of ACOAs. I think that's also true of those of us who are highly empathic, and there's a lot of other explanations for that as well, but it's definitely true of ACOAs. Adult children of alcoholics are super responsible or super irresponsible. No in-betweens. Hyper responsible or hyper irresponsible. Adult children of alcoholics are extremely loyal, even in the face of evidence that the loyalty would be undeserved. I'm going to repeat that. Adult children of alcoholics are extremely loyal, even in the face of evidence that the loyalty is undeserved. So, a woman or a man, but I work with women, so we'll speak to the ladies, who is an untreated ACOA, which is another way of saying an untreated codependent. Codependency is a disease of immaturity that stems from trauma in the childhood. And few things are more traumatic, let's put it that way. Few things are more traumatic than the ways in which we are affected by the family disease of alcoholism. So you have an untreated ACOA who is also highly empathic, who hasn't done any work on herself, who has no boundaries, her self-esteem's in the toilet. She looks good. She's really good at making it all look good on the outside because she's been doing that her whole life, right? But the inside is a freaking train wreck. I'm describing myself about 15 to 20 years back, by the way. But does it ring true for any of you? Does it ring true for any of you? So an untreated ACOA / codependent who is highly empathic, wide open energetically, super sensitive. Everything looks good on the outside, but the inside, oof, lots of unresolved pain. That is a recipe for disaster in our romantic relationships in particular, other relationships as well. But that right there, my friends, is the recipe to be the ultimate magnet to a destructive narcissist. The ultimate magnet to a destructive narcissist. The more unhealed we are in that ACOA syndrome and all of those wounds that we carry, many of which are unconscious, until we start bringing this stuff up into our consciousness to do the healing work. But many of it is unconscious. That sets us up to attract destructive narcissists as partners, one after the other. And then you add to it that an adult child of alcoholism, that adult children of alcoholics are extremely loyal, even in the face of evidence that the loyalty is undeserved. It's a recipe for disaster. Recipe for disaster. Adult children of alcoholics are impulsive. Adult children of alcoholics are impulsive. That's where she leaves off. I could certainly add to that list just based on my own personal experience, my life, what I have observed, what I have had a front row seat to my whole entire life, and what I now have a front row seat to professionally. I could add to that list, but for the purpose of today's live, we'll try and keep it, within reason. We don't want to go on all day long. It's a very serious issue. A very serious issue. We grow up, we get jobs, especially those of us who are hyper responsible. We're taking care of everybody. We're juggling all the balls. We're making it all look good. We're working our freaking faces off. Our houses are immaculate. We are very compulsive in many areas. For me, for a long time, it was health and wellness, fitness. You could eat off my floor in spite of the fact that I had a 120-pound dog and a cat in the house and a brother coming and going. Like, I was compulsive about perfection, right? All looks good on the outside, but the internal world, it can be a mess. There's a lot of pain there. And then we wonder why we are struggling. We wonder why we keep attracting these destructive and painful people into our lives. And it's because we were programmed in such a way that is what we are a vibrational match to. That is what we are an energetic match to. What we carry is what's going to show up. And it's not about blame. It's very easy, and I did it for a long time for good reason, quite legitimately so. I grew up with some real sick people, some real narcissistic and some real sick people in my family of origin. So it's very easy to point fingers and blame, but the reality is that doesn't help us. Part of our healing journey for sure is playing pin the tail on the donkey and telling the truth about what the hell happened and who was responsible and who stood by and watched. That is part of our healing journey for sure. But it doesn't end there. It doesn't end there. Blame doesn't help us. Telling the truth, understanding, recognizing, identifying what really went on for what it is, but then doing our own work, taking responsibility for our life and doing our own work. We can't expect to heal and grow and evolve and create lives that we're thrilled to be living, which is the life I live today, a life today that I am thrilled to be facing every morning, thrilled to be living. We can't expect to be living that quality of life if we are stuck just in blame and not willing to put the focus on us and do our own work and take responsibility for ourselves. And as untreated codependents and untreated adult children of alcoholism, we've got some work to do. We've got some work to do. So we can keep doing the same thing, the definition of insanity, keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. You've all heard that, right? Or we can take our power back, take our focus off of them and what happened and what they did and what they didn't do and put it on us. What do I need to do to heal me? What choices do I need to make to improve me and the quality of my life? Stepping into our power so that we can truly become the people that we came to this planet to be. Hurt people hurt people. That's the truth. Hurt people hurt people, right? So, you know, the folks that we can point fingers at and blame, and again, part of our journey is definitely playing pin the tail on the donkey at a certain point, right? At a certain point. We've got to get real about what the hell happened. But those people were victims. We are all victims of victims. We are all victims of victims, right? So I can blame them all I want, but if I really take a step back and think about what they must have lived, like just based on what I know they lived, just what I know, never mind what I don't know. Doesn't make what they did okay. Doesn't make what they did okay. Doesn't mean I need them in my life today. Doesn't mean I need to be vulnerable to their specific kind of crazy ever again. No way. No way. But the work is mine to do, and part of that is recognizing that for these people to have been behaving the way that they did, for me to be affected the way that I was, they must have been affected themselves. They were pretty severely affected themselves. And until someone stands up and says no more and breaks the chains, breaks the patterns, it ends here. Until someone does that, it just keeps getting passed down generation after generation after generation. I think that we are in a time where it is time to start waking up from this level of insanity that so many of us have endured in our families of origin. We are in a time where it is time to wake up from the levels of unconsciousness, deep, deep, deep unconsciousness that many of us grew up in with regards to our families of origin. And it starts with us. It starts with us. Guys, I hope you got some value out of that. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to like, comment, and or share. Once again, my name is Tamie M. I am an empowerment coach for women. I help women break free from painful relationship patterns through a proven 8-week process called the Freedom Class. And if that's of interest to you, you can drop a comment, send me a private message, or get on over to TamieMCoaching.com. All the details on the 8-week program are there, and there's a link at the bottom of the page. It says apply now. You click on that link and you can book a free strategy call with me and we can have a conversation. So again, I hope you got some value out of this, and don't forget to like, comment, and or share. And as always, I will leave you with this. Know your value. Know your value and unlock your freedom. Mwah. Much love. Bye for now.